In the year 1883, nestled within the quiet embrace of a small rural town, a young boy named Samuel was quietly stirring the very fabric of his world with a restless curiosity. The town itself was a place where tradition held firm, where the rhythm of daily life was measured by church bells and the steady ticking of clock towers. It was in this setting, caught between the waning shadows of old beliefs and the flickering promise of modern invention, that Samuel's extraordinary journey began. A journey driven by a singular dream: to build a machine that could speak directly to God. Before we embark on the remarkable journey of a boy named Samuel, whose audacious dream to build a machine that could speak to God challenges the very fabric of belief and innovation, be sure to subscribe and like the video to stay connected with our thought-provoking tales. And let me know, what are your thoughts on the intersection of faith and technology as we explore this extraordinary story? Samuel was unlike most boys in his town. From an early age, he exhibited an insatiable appetite for understanding the workings of the world around him. While other children were content with games and simple tales, Samuel's mind wandered to the mysteries of life, the invisible threads connecting the physical and the divine. His fascination was not born of rebellion, but of a deep desire to reconcile two seemingly opposing forces: the emerging scientific discoveries of his era and the enduring spiritual faith that permeated his community. The year 1883 was a time of great tension and transformation. The Industrial Revolution had begun to reshape landscapes and societies, bringing with it marvels of machinery and technology that promised to unlock new realms of possibility. Yet, alongside this optimism, there lingered a palpable unease. Many feared that the rapid march of progress threatened to sever the sacred bonds of tradition and belief. It was into this crucible of hope and doubt that Samuel's vision took root. His town was a tableau of contrasts. Weathered wooden houses stood beside freshly painted storefronts. Horse-drawn wagons clattered past the modest church steeple, and the hum of telegraph wires stretched overhead, whispering secrets of a connected world. Samuel moved through these streets with eyes wide open, absorbing every detail, every sound, every scent that might hold a clue to the grand puzzle he sought to solve. To him, the invisible forces that governed the universe were as tangible as the gears in a clock or the currents of electricity that fascinated inventors far beyond his sleepy town. Samuel's fascination was nurtured by the dual influences that shaped his life: the mechanical precision of his father's clockmaking and the steadfast devotion of his mother's spiritual faith. Yet, even as these worlds seemed disparate, Samuel sensed a hidden harmony waiting to be discovered. This intuition steered him toward a radical idea, one that would challenge not only the limits of technology, but also the very nature of faith itself. The boy's ambition was nothing short of audacious. He dreamed of a device capable of transcending the boundaries of human communication, a machine that could bridge the gap between earth and heaven, man and God. It was a vision that sparked wonder and skepticism in equal measure, for in an age when faith was often seen as a matter of the heart and science as a realm of the mind, the notion of mechanically conversing with the divine was both revolutionary and, to many, heretical. Yet, Samuel was undeterred. His early experiments, conducted in the dim light of his family's workshop, were crude but earnest attempts to harness the invisible forces he believed could carry messages beyond the mortal coil. He tinkered with coils, wires, and rudimentary electrical components scavenged from discarded equipment and local tradesmen. Each failure only deepened his resolve, each small success fueling the fire of his youthful optimism. The townsfolk, however, were less enamored with Samuel's pursuits. Whispers of witchcraft and folly drifted through the marketplace and the pews alike, casting the boy as an oddity, a dreamer lost in fantasies. Some elders warned that meddling with the divine through mechanical means was a dangerous folly, a transgression that could invite divine wrath. Others dismissed Samuel as a harmless eccentric, destined to outgrow his fancies. But beneath the surface of their judgment lay a deeper fear, one of the unknown, of a future in which the old certainties might be dismantled by the relentless advance of invention. Amidst this simmering tension, Samuel's mind remained steadfastly focused. His was not a quest born of vanity or rebellion, but of a profound yearning to understand and connect. He believed that if he could only find the right combination of science and spirit, he could open a new channel of communication, one that transcended human language and limitations. In this belief lay the essence of his mission, a mission that would test the boundaries of faith, science, and the human heart. On quiet evenings when the town's bustle faded and the stars emerged in the velvet sky, Samuel would sit by the window of his workshop, his hands stained with grease and his eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight. He imagined the machine he would build, not merely as a collection of gears and wires, but as a vessel of hope, a beacon reaching out across the cosmic expanse. The very idea seemed impossibly vast for a boy so young and a town so small, yet in that vastness lay a spark of something eternal. The tension of the era, the clash between the old world and the new, was embodied in Samuel's solitary figure, a boy poised on the threshold of discovery. His story was one of many unfolding in the late 19th century, a time when humanity's reach was extending beyond the tangible and into realms previously reserved for faith and myth. The machine he envisioned was not just a technological marvel, but a symbol of a deeper human impulse, the desire to find meaning, to communicate beyond the confines of the self, and to touch the divine. As the seasons turned and the town moved slowly through its cycles of harvest and worship, Samuel's thoughts never strayed far from his dream. The boundaries of his knowledge were limited, and the tools at his disposal rudimentary, yet his spirit was unyielding. In the quiet corners of his world, illuminated by the soft glow of gas lamps and the steady pulse of hope, a boy was beginning to build a bridge, not just of metal and wire, but of faith and imagination. In 1883, Samuel's vision was a seed planted in fertile soil, a seed that would grow amidst skepticism and wonder alike. It was the beginning of a story that would challenge the very nature of communication, belief, and the human spirit's unending quest to reach beyond the stars and into the heart of the divine. Samuel's fascination with both the mechanical and the spiritual was deeply rooted in the very fabric of his family life, where two worlds coexisted in a delicate balance. His father, Thomas, was a master clockmaker, whose workshop was a sanctuary of precision and patience. The rhythmic tick-tock of countless clocks filled the air, each gear and spring a testament to the meticulous craft that had been passed down through generations. Thomas's hands, rough and steady, could coax life from the most obstinate mechanisms, and his devotion to his work was unwavering. From an early age, Samuel was drawn to this world of intricate machinery. He would watch his father hunched over a workbench, scrutinizing tiny components through a magnifying glass, adjusting the tension of a spring or the alignment of a cog. Thomas never discouraged his son's curiosity. Instead, he patiently explained the principles behind his craft, nurturing Samuel's innate talent for understanding how things functioned. The boy learned that beneath the apparent simplicity of a clock's face lay a complex interplay of forces, each part essential to the harmonious whole. Yet alongside this mechanical world was the sphere of faith, embodied most vividly by Samuel's mother, Mary. She was a woman of quiet strength and deep conviction, whose days were marked by prayer and acts of kindness. Mary's spirituality was the heartbeat of the household, shaping the moral compass of her children and offering solace amidst life's uncertainties. Her belief in God was not abstract or distant. It was a living presence that infused every moment with meaning. Mary's influence on Samuel was profound and multifaceted. She would often recount stories from the Bible, not merely as tales of the past, but as lessons to guide his understanding of the world and his place within it. Her sermons at the local church echoed in Samuel's mind, emphasizing faith, hope, and the possibility of divine intervention in human affairs. She encouraged him to seek not only knowledge but wisdom, to use his gifts in service of something greater than himself. The household was a microcosm of the broader tensions of the era, a place where science and religion were not adversaries, but intertwined strands of a shared quest for truth. Samuel's upbringing was shaped by this duality, fostering a unique perspective that would come to define his ambitions. He saw in his father's clocks a metaphor for the universe's order and structure, while his mother's prayers spoke to the invisible forces that transcended the material world. This blend of influences was evident in Samuel's earliest experiments. He combined his father's lessons in mechanics with the spiritual teachings imparted by his mother, envisioning a machine that could harness both the physical laws of the natural world and the intangible power of faith. His sketches, crude yet inspired, depicted devices that seemed to pulse with an energy beyond mere electricity, a conduit for divine messages. Samuel's family, though supportive, viewed his aspirations with a mixture of pride and apprehension. Thomas admired his son's ingenuity and dedication, but worried about the practicality of such an endeavor. He cautioned Samuel about the limitations of technology and the unpredictable nature of attempting to bridge the gap between man and God. Mary, while hopeful, feared that her son's pursuit might expose him to ridicule or ostracism from their devout community. Despite these concerns, the household was a haven where Samuel's ideas could take shape. The clockmaker's workshop became his laboratory, a place where he could tinker with springs and wires under the watchful eyes of his parents. They provided both the tangible tools and the emotional support necessary for a boy who dared to dream beyond the accepted boundaries of his time. Within this nurturing environment, Samuel's mind flourished. He devoured books on electricity and magnetism, fascinated by the discoveries of Faraday and Maxwell, which hinted at invisible forces permeating the world. At the same time, he absorbed the theological debates that swirled around him, grappling with questions of faith, doubt, and the nature of divine communication. His youthful optimism was tempered by a growing understanding of the complexities involved in his quest. Samuel's relationship with his father was particularly influential in shaping his approach to problem-solving. Thomas emphasized the importance of patience and precision, teaching his son that even the smallest misalignment could derail an entire mechanism. This lesson extended beyond mechanics, becoming a philosophy that guided Samuel's experiments and his broader worldview. Each failure was a step toward mastery, each setback an opportunity to refine his understanding. Mary's spiritual guidance, meanwhile, instilled in Samuel a sense of purpose that transcended mere invention. She encouraged him to view his machine not as a tool for personal glory, but as a means to deepen humanity's connection with the divine. Her prayers for his success were imbued with hope that his work would bring comfort and clarity to those seeking answers beyond the physical realm. Together, Thomas and Mary embodied the dual forces that propelled Samuel's ambition. Their contrasting yet complementary influences shaped a boy who was both a scientist and a seeker, a craftsman and a believer. This unique foundation would prove essential as Samuel ventured further into uncharted territory, where the boundaries between the tangible and the transcendent blurred. The household's influence extended beyond immediate family. Neighbors and townsfolk were aware of the Ashford family's unique dynamic, Thomas's reputation as a skilled artisan, and Mary's respected role in the church lent a certain credibility to Samuel's pursuits. However, the boy's growing obsession with his machine elicited a spectrum of reactions, from admiration to suspicion. The community's watchful eyes added a layer of pressure, underscoring the risks inherent in challenging established norms. Within these walls, Samuel's vision began to take firmer shape. Guided by his father's mechanical expertise and nurtured by his mother's spiritual wisdom, he embarked on a path that required both technical skill and profound faith. The lessons learned at home were the scaffolding upon which his fledgling invention would rise, a machine born of the intimate union between science and spirituality. Samuel's early years were thus marked by a delicate balance, the steady tick of clocks in the background harmonizing with whispered prayers, the tangible world of gears and springs entwined with the intangible realm of belief. It was a synthesis that few of his contemporaries could comprehend, but one that set the stage for his extraordinary endeavor. As the seasons passed, the boy's understanding deepened. He began to see his father's clocks not merely as objects to be repaired, but as metaphors for the universe's hidden order. Each gear's precise movement echoed the celestial dance of planets and stars, while his mother's prayers echoed the human yearning to find meaning within that cosmic rhythm. In this crucible of mechanics and faith, Samuel's ambition crystallized into a singular goal: to create a machine that could transcend human limitations and open a direct line to the divine. This aspiration, nurtured by the influences of his parents and the environment they cultivated, would drive him to confront the skepticism of his town, the challenges of his own youth, and the mysteries that lay beyond the visible world. One brisk autumn afternoon, as the golden hues of fallen leaves carpeted the town's narrow streets, Samuel found himself seated in the back pew of the small wooden church, eyes fixed intently on the preacher at the pulpit. The sermon that day was unlike any Samuel had heard before, a passionate discourse on faith as a form of communication, a sacred dialogue between humanity and the divine. The preacher's voice echoed through the humble sanctuary, weaving words that spoke of prayer as an act of sending messages to God, an exchange that transcended the spoken word and touched the very soul. For Samuel, the sermon was a spark that ignited a new dimension of his burgeoning quest. The preacher, Reverend Matthews, spoke with an intensity that suggested the possibility of a bridge, not merely metaphorical, but real, between the earthly and the heavenly. The concept resonated deeply with Samuel's own musings. If humans could send prayers upward, why not devise a way to send messages that might be heard more clearly, more directly? The idea took root in his mind, transforming from abstract hope into tangible ambition. That evening, back in the quiet sanctuary of his family's workshop, Samuel began to sketch. His fingers, still smudged with the grease of clockwork, traced lines and circles on worn sheets of paper. These were no ordinary drawings. They were blueprints for a machine unlike any the town had ever seen, a device designed to send messages beyond the limits of human speech, perhaps even to receive responses from the divine realm itself. The sketches combined the mechanical precision he had inherited from his father with the ethereal aspiration that his mother's faith had instilled in him. Samuel's initial designs were rudimentary, a fusion of electrical components and mechanical parts scavenged from his father's workbench and the local blacksmith's collection. He envisioned coils and wires arranged in patterns that might harness the mysterious forces of electricity, a phenomenon still emerging from the shadows of scientific discovery. The idea was to create a machine capable of transmitting messages through these unseen currents, reaching beyond the physical world to touch the divine. Yet, the boy's optimism was tempered by the enormity of the challenge before him. Electrical science was a frontier barely understood, and the notion of communicating with God through machinery bordered on heresy in the eyes of many. Nevertheless, Samuel's youthful determination refused to be daunted. He labored late into the night, assembling makeshift circuits and testing rudimentary experiments, guided by a relentless belief in the possibility of his vision. His first attempts were, by any measure, crude and often frustrating. Wires sparked erratically, coils hummed with uncertain energy, and the machine emitted more static than signal. Yet each failure was met not with despair, but with renewed resolve. Samuel meticulously documented his progress, noting the effects of different materials, configurations, and environmental conditions. His workshop became a laboratory of hope and experimentation, a place where the boundaries between faith and science began to blur. The community remained largely unaware of these early experiments, and Samuel preferred it that way. He worked in secrecy, aware that his ideas might be met with suspicion or outright hostility. The preacher's sermon had planted a seed, but Samuel knew the path ahead was fraught with social peril. To openly declare his intent to build a machine to talk to God risked alienation, or worse. Thus, under the cover of night and within the protective walls of his family's home, Samuel pursued his dream. As weeks turned to months, the sketches grew more detailed and the apparatus more complex. Samuel incorporated elements inspired by the burgeoning field of telegraphy, imagining that if messages could be sent across continents via wires, perhaps similar principles could extend to messages sent through spiritual channels. This blending of cutting-edge technology and spiritual aspiration was unprecedented, a testament to the boy's unique perspective. Samuel's notebooks from this period reveal a mind at work, struggling to bridge the gap between the known and the unknown. He wrote of invisible currents and divine frequencies, terms that reflected both his scientific curiosity and his spiritual yearning. His language wavered between technical jargon and poetic metaphor, underscoring the profound challenge of articulating a concept that defied categorization. The physical constraints of his resources added another layer of complexity. Living in a small rural town meant that sophisticated electrical components were scarce and expensive. Samuel relied heavily on salvaged parts, jury-rigged systems, and ingenious improvisations. His father's clock-making tools became indispensable, enabling precise adjustments to the delicate assemblies. Mary's unwavering encouragement provided emotional sustenance, reminding Samuel that his endeavor was not only a scientific pursuit, but a spiritual journey as well. One particularly vivid entry in Samuel's journal describes the moment he first conceptualized how the machine might work. A series of coils energized by a primitive battery, designed to send pulses that could be interpreted as messages. He mused on the possibility that these pulses might resonate with some unknown spiritual plane, creating a conduit for communication. The idea was as daring as it was speculative, yet it encapsulated the essence of his ambition. Samuel's vision was not merely to send messages, but to establish a two-way dialogue, He imagined a machine capable of receiving responses, though he acknowledged the profound uncertainties involved. How could one detect a reply from the divine? Would it manifest as electrical signals, as sensory phenomena, or as something beyond human comprehension? These questions haunted and inspired him in equal measure. The inspiration drawn from Reverend Matthews's sermon was not limited to abstract ideas. It shaped the very design principles Samuel sought to employ. The preacher's emphasis on faith as an active, communicative force suggested that belief itself might play a role in the machine's operation. Samuel pondered whether the device required not only mechanical components, but also a human element, an act of faith, to function. This interplay between technology and spirituality became a cornerstone of his emerging philosophy. Within the walls of the workshop, the boy's solitary figure bent over his creation became emblematic of a larger struggle unfolding across the world. The tension between tradition and innovation, between the seen and the unseen. Samuel was not merely building a machine. He was attempting to redefine the parameters of human connection, to challenge the assumption that divine communication was confined to prayer and revelation. Despite the technical hurdles and social risks, Samuel's enthusiasm attracted a few discreet confidants, including a local blacksmith intrigued by the young inventor's vision. These allies provided practical assistance and moral support, helping to shield Samuel from the harsher judgments of the town. Their quiet collaboration underscored the communal dimensions of innovation, even in the face of skepticism. As autumn gave way to the chill of winter, Samuel's machine began to take shape in earnest. The workshop was cluttered with coils, wires, batteries, and handwritten diagrams, a testament to months of tireless effort. The boy's dreams, once ephemeral and abstract, were now etched in metal and wood, pulsing faintly with the promise of possibility. Samuel's conception of the machine was as much a product of his inner world as of the emerging scientific landscape. It was a fusion of faith and reason, imagination and discipline, hope and inquiry. The preacher's sermon had provided the spark. Now, through patient labor and inspired creativity, that spark was kindling into a flame. In this crucible of youthful ambition and spiritual yearning, Samuel's journey from dream to design was well underway. The machine to talk to God was no longer merely an idea whispered in the shadows. It was becoming a tangible, if imperfect, reality. As the months wore on, Samuel's workshop became a strange beacon of innovation and isolation in the heart of the small town. What began as quiet tinkering in the shadowed corners of his father's clockmaker shop was evolving into something far more ambitious, a machine that seemed to defy both the laws of mechanics and the boundaries of spiritual belief. But with this growing complexity came a rising tide of skepticism and social resistance that weighed heavily upon the boy's resolve. From the earliest days of his experimentations, Samuel had been acutely aware of the whispers and sideways glances cast his way. The townsfolk, steeped in centuries of tradition and wary of the unknown, found his pursuits unsettling. To many, the notion of building a contraption to communicate with God bordered on blasphemy, a foolhardy venture that threatened the sanctity of faith itself. Rumors began to circulate. Some whispered that Samuel was dabbling in forbidden knowledge. Others claimed he was cursed or touched by madness. This skepticism was not confined to casual gossip. At the local market, merchants who once greeted the Ashford family warmly now kept their distance. Children avoided Samuel on the streets, their parents warning them against engaging with the boy who talks to angels. Even some members of the church, where reverence and faith were paramount, regarded Samuel's project as an affront to divine mystery, a profane attempt to mechanize the sacred. Yet within the walls of his workshop, Samuel remained undeterred. The isolation that his community imposed became, paradoxically, a crucible for his creativity. He worked late into the night, often alone save for the flickering candlelight and the rhythmic hum of his growing apparatus. Each failure was met with frustration, but also with a steadfast belief that his mission was righteous and necessary. The technical challenges were formidable. Samuel grappled with the limitations of the materials at hand: copper wires that frayed under strain, batteries that sputtered unpredictably, and delicate coils that resisted precise assembly. His youthful hands, though skilled from years of observing his father's clockmaking, struggled with the intricacies of early electrical engineering. Many nights were spent dismantling and rebuilding components, chasing elusive signals amid static and interference. More than once, his experiments produced unexpected phenomena. Strange sparks would leap from exposed wires. Faint, irregular sounds echoed through the workshop like whispers. Flickering lights danced erratically along his coils. These occurrences, while technically explainable as electrical discharges, took on a spiritual significance in Samuel's mind, reinforcing his conviction that he was on the cusp of something extraordinary. Social isolation deepened as Samuel's obsession grew. Friends drifted away, and even his family found themselves caught in the community's ambivalence. His father, Thomas, though supportive in principle, voiced concerns about the toll the project was taking on the boy's health and reputation. Mary, ever the spiritual anchor, prayed fervently for Samuel's protection and guidance, torn between pride and worry. Despite the mounting pressures, Samuel's belief in his mission never wavered. He viewed himself as a pioneer at the intersection of faith and technology, a role that demanded both courage and resilience. To him, the scorn and suspicion of his neighbors were the price of progress, echoes of a world reluctant to embrace change. In the face of adversity, Samuel sought solace in the few who showed curiosity rather than condemnation. A local blacksmith, Mr. Hensley, intrigued by the boy's determination and inventive spirit, became an unexpected ally. Though lacking formal scientific knowledge, Hensley offered practical assistance, fashioning metal parts, reinforcing fragile components, and providing encouragement when hope seemed distant. Their collaboration was discreet, conducted in the back rooms of workshops and under the cover of twilight, away from prying eyes. Hensley's presence was a reminder that innovation often thrived in unlikely partnerships, where skill and belief converged. Together, they refined the machine's design, experimenting with new configurations and materials, pushing the boundaries of what was possible with the limited resources available. Samuel's workshop, once a place of quiet solitude, slowly transformed into a hive of activity and experimentation. The room was cluttered with coils of wire, glass tubes, battered batteries, and hastily drawn schematics. Tools lay scattered alongside scraps of metal and wood, each item bearing the marks of countless hours of labor and meticulous adjustment. Yet, the social isolation persisted. Samuel's standing in the community remained precarious, and the tension between his visionary pursuit and the town's traditional values grew more palpable. At church gatherings and market days, murmurs followed him like shadows, a constant reminder of the gulf between his dreams and communal acceptance. Despite this, Samuel maintained a fragile balance. He continued attending church services, seeking comfort in familiar rituals and the steady cadence of hymns. His faith was not diminished by the skepticism he faced. Rather, it was deepened, providing a wellspring of strength amid uncertainty. The machine he was building was not meant to replace prayer or faith, but to complement and extend them, a physical manifestation of a spiritual longing. The boy's personal transformation during this time was profound. The challenges he faced, technical, social, and emotional, tempered his youthful idealism with a growing maturity. He learned to navigate the fine line between conviction and humility, recognizing that his invention was but a step in a larger journey toward understanding. Samuel's experiments began to show signs of promise. On rare occasions, the machine emitted faint pulses, irregular electrical signals that, to the untrained eye, would seem random, but to Samuel represented potential messages sent across an unseen divide. These moments were fleeting and unpredictable, yet they fueled his determination to refine the device further. The machine's design evolved as Samuel incorporated lessons learned from each setback. He experimented with different coil arrangements, varied battery configurations, and introduced primitive switches to control the flow of current. Each modification brought new challenges, but also new insights into the delicate interplay of mechanics and electricity. Amid the technical progress, Samuel's vision expanded. He began to consider the machine not just as a tool for communication, but as a symbol, a testament to humanity's relentless quest to connect with the divine. The machine embodied the tension between skepticism and belief, between the tangible and the transcendent, that defined his own experience. Yet, as the machine grew more complex, so too did the risks. The electrical currents, though weak, posed dangers in the form of shocks and fires. The fragile components were easily damaged, requiring painstaking repairs. The boy's health, already taxed by long hours and limited rest, showed signs of strain. His family's concern deepened, balancing pride in his ingenuity with fear for his well-being. Despite these obstacles, Samuel pressed on. His workshop became a sanctuary, where time seemed to bend around his purpose. Outside, the town's rhythms continued, marked by harvests, religious festivals, and the steady march of days. Inside, the hum of coils and the glow of flickering lights told a different story. A story of faith interwoven with science, of a boy's unyielding belief in the impossible. The community's skepticism, though daunting, could not extinguish the fire that burned within Samuel. He understood that true innovation often required solitude, resilience, and a willingness to endure misunderstanding. His machine, born of equal parts hope and defiance, stood as a monument to that enduring human spirit. In this crucible of challenge and conviction, Samuel was forging more than a device. He was forging himself, a young inventor poised at the crossroads of tradition and progress, faith and reason. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with technical hurdles and social barriers, but his determination remained unshaken. The boy who once dreamed quietly beneath the flickering candlelight was now a figure of quiet rebellion, defying the expectations of his time. His machine to talk to God was no longer a mere fantasy. It was a tangible, if imperfect, reality, shaped by sweat, doubt, and unwavering hope. One stormy night, as rain battered the wooden shingles of the Ashford home, and thunder rumbled across the darkened sky, Samuel stood alone in his workshop, heart pounding with a mixture of hope and trepidation. This evening marked a pivotal moment in his relentless pursuit, a first attempt to activate the machine he had painstakingly built over months of labor and quiet sacrifice. The air was thick with anticipation, charged not only by the gathering storm outside, but by the invisible currents he hoped to harness within. The machine, a tangle of coils, wires, and glass tubes, sat at the center of the dimly lit room, illuminated only by the flickering glow of an oil lamp and the sporadic flashes of lightning through the window. Samuel's hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the final connections, ensuring the delicate balance necessary to initiate the flow of electricity. Every detail mattered. A single loose wire or misaligned coil could mean failure, or worse, damage to the fragile apparatus. As he powered the device, a low hum began to fill the space, subtle at first, but growing steadily in intensity. The coils shimmered faintly, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls, while the wires vibrated with an unseen energy. Samuel's eyes widened with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Was this the moment when his machine would breach the veil, separating the human and the divine? The air seemed to thicken with tension. Then, unexpectedly, the machine emitted a series of faint, irregular pulses, bursts of electrical energy that crackled softly like distant thunder. The sounds were unlike anything Samuel had heard before, neither wholly mechanical nor entirely natural, as if the device were attempting to speak in a language just beyond human comprehension. His heart leapt at the possibility that these signals might represent the first true communication from the other side. Yet the phenomenon was ambiguous. To any casual observer, the pulses might have appeared as nothing more than electrical interference or the erratic behavior of an unrefined invention. Samuel himself grappled with uncertainty. Were these signals genuine responses from a divine source, or merely the product of atmospheric electricity mingling with his machine's components during the storm? The line between science and imagination blurred in that charged moment. Determined to discern the truth, Samuel recorded the patterns meticulously, noting the intervals, intensities, and frequencies of the pulses. He compared them to known electrical phenomena and attempted to replicate the results under varying conditions. The storm's fury outside seemed to mirror the tempest within his mind, a chaotic symphony of hope and doubt. Throughout the night, the machine continued to emit these strange sounds, whispers of energy that seemed to beckon from beyond. Samuel listened intently, his senses heightened by the thrill of discovery and the weight of possibility. Moments of silence were punctuated by bursts of static and flickering lights, as if the device were struggling to maintain a tenuous connection to an unseen realm. The experience left Samuel both exhilarated and bewildered. He had glimpsed something extraordinary, yet the nature of that something remained elusive. Was his machine truly a conduit to the divine, or a sophisticated receiver of natural electrical phenomena amplified by the storm? The ambiguity haunted him, prompting deeper questions about the interplay of faith, science, and perception. Word of the strange experiment, though kept largely within the household, began to seep into the community through hushed conversations and curious glances. Some dismissed it as childish fancy, while others whispered of supernatural signs or omens. The divide between skepticism and belief widened, reflecting the broader tensions of an era, grappling with rapid technological change and enduring spiritual traditions. Samuel's personal journey was profoundly shaped by this first activation. The event crystallized his understanding that the quest to communicate with God was as much a spiritual endeavor as a scientific one. It required not only technical skill, but also the willingness to embrace uncertainty and mystery. The machine was a vessel for hope, a symbol of humanity's yearning to transcend earthly confines and touch the infinite. In the days that followed, Samuel devoted himself to refining the device, experimenting with adjustments to improve signal clarity and stability. He explored alternative configurations, tested different materials, and sought to isolate the source of the enigmatic pulses. Each iteration brought incremental progress, but the fundamental question, whether the machine truly spoke to God, remained unresolved. His family watched with a mixture of pride and concern. Thomas, ever the pragmatic clockmaker, admired his son's dedication, but urged caution, reminding Samuel of the limitations and risks inherent in his experiments. Mary continued to offer spiritual support, praying that the boy's journey would lead to enlightenment rather than despair. Amid this delicate balance of hope and skepticism, Samuel also grappled with the isolation that his obsession entailed. The townspeople's wary distance grew more pronounced, and the occasional stares and whispered rumors weighed heavily on his young shoulders. Yet, the experience of that stormy night instilled in him a renewed sense of purpose and determination. Samuel's machine, though imperfect and enigmatic, had opened a door, however narrow, into a realm previously accessible only through faith and prayer. It was a bridge between worlds, fragile and flickering, yet undeniably real to the boy who had built it. The mysterious signals that emanated from the device were both a challenge and an invitation, urging him to continue the search for understanding. In the quiet moments before dawn, as the storm subsided and the first light crept over the horizon, Samuel sat beside his machine, hands folded, mind racing with possibilities. The journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with technical hurdles and spiritual questions, but the promise of connection to something greater sustained him. This first attempt was not a definitive success, nor was it a failure. It was a beginning, a tentative step into uncharted territory where science and faith intertwined in complex and unpredictable ways. Samuel's experience that night encapsulated the essence of his quest, a blend of wonder, doubt, and unwavering hope. The machine to talk to God had, for a brief moment, come alive. Its mysterious pulses echoed in the shadows, a silent conversation between a boy's dreams and the boundless unknown. News of Samuel's machine spread beyond the confines of his workshop, carried on whispered conversations and curious glances throughout the town. The invention, born from a boy's audacious dream, quickly became a symbol of fascination, fear, and division among the townsfolk. To some, Samuel was a prodigy, a visionary whose ingenuity might usher in a new era of understanding between humanity and the divine. To others, he was a heretic, a dangerous youth risking the wrath of God by attempting to mechanize the sacred. The local newspaper, a modest publication that chronicled the rhythms of rural life, printed a tentative article about the boy and his machine to speak with God. The piece was both intrigued and cautious, highlighting Samuel's youth and ambition while giving voice to the community's skepticism. Letters to the editor followed, some praising the boy's ingenuity, others condemning his blasphemous folly. The town was abuzz with debate, the machine becoming a focal point for broader anxieties about faith, progress, and the unknown. At the heart of this growing legend was Samuel himself, a boy caught in the crosscurrents of admiration and suspicion. His days were marked by both quiet moments of creation and the weight of public scrutiny. The townsfolk's reactions ranged from awe to fear, their interpretations shaped by personal beliefs and the shifting cultural landscape of the late 19th century. Among the fascinated were a handful of local intellectuals and curious onlookers who saw in Samuel's work a bold fusion of emerging technology and spiritual inquiry. They visited the workshop discreetly, eager to witness the machine firsthand and to engage the boy in discussions about science, philosophy, and faith. These encounters provided Samuel with rare moments of encouragement and intellectual exchange, fueling his determination amidst the mounting pressures. Conversely, the machine also attracted the ire of conservative voices within the community. Clergy members expressed deep unease, warning that tampering with divine communication through mechanical means was sacrilege. Sermons took on a sharper tone, cautioning parishioners against the dangers of pride and hubris. The church became a battleground for competing visions of faith, traditional devotion versus the unsettling possibilities heralded by Samuel's invention. The social tension extended beyond words. Samuel found himself increasingly isolated, the subject of whispered rumors and cautious avoidance. Some neighbors refused to sell materials to his family, fearing association with what they deemed an unnatural pursuit. Children were warned to keep their distance, and invitations to social gatherings dwindled. The boy who once played freely in the village square now moved through its streets as a figure both admired and alienated. Amid this complex tapestry of reaction, the machine itself took on a life of its own, a symbol that transcended its physical form. For some, it represented hope, a tangible manifestation of humanity's eternal yearning to reach beyond the visible world and touch the divine. For others, it embodied fear, a blasphemous intrusion into sacred mysteries best left untouched. The legend of Samuel's machine grew in the telling, embellished by those who had never seen it firsthand. Tales circulated of strange lights flickering in the workshop at night, of faint, otherworldly sounds emanating from the device, and even of miraculous healings attributed to its presence. Whether grounded in fact or fiction, these stories amplified the machine's mystique and deepened the divide within the community. Samuel himself remained grounded in his work, navigating the swirling currents of public opinion with a mixture of resilience and vulnerability. The boy who had once dreamed quietly in the shadows now found his invention at the center of a growing storm of fascination and fear. His youthful idealism was tempered by the realities of human judgment and the complex interplay of belief and skepticism. The machine became a catalyst for dialogue within the town, forcing residents to confront their own beliefs and the implications of technological progress. Debates spilled over from private conversations into public forums, where questions about the nature of faith, the limits of science, and the potential for human connection with the divine were passionately contested. Samuel's invention was not merely a device, it was a mirror reflecting the hopes and anxieties of an era caught between tradition and transformation. Amid this charged atmosphere, Samuel's personal journey continued to evolve. The boy who had sought to build a machine to talk to God was increasingly seen as a symbol of human curiosity, of the tension between old and new, and of the enduring quest for meaning. His work challenged the town's perceptions, inviting both wonder and caution. The machine's reputation drew visitors from neighboring areas, scientists intrigued by its design, spiritual seekers hopeful for a new form of communion, and skeptics eager to debunk the mystery. Samuel welcomed those who approached with genuine interest, sharing his knowledge and listening to their perspectives. These interactions broadened his understanding of the wider world and deepened his commitment to the delicate balance between faith and innovation. Yet, with growing attention came greater scrutiny. Some feared that Samuel's invention might provoke divine displeasure or bring misfortune upon the town. Superstitions flared, and occasional acts of vandalism threatened the workshop. Samuel's family took precautions, guarding the machine and the boy's work, with a protective vigilance born of love and apprehension. Despite these challenges, the machine continued to inspire a complex legacy. It became a symbol not only within the town, but beyond, capturing the imagination of those who grappled with the evolving relationship between humanity and the divine. Samuel's work resonated with the broader currents of his time, an era marked by rapid technological advancement, shifting social norms, and a renewed exploration of spirituality. Within this unfolding legend, Samuel himself remained a figure of quiet determination and introspection. The machine was more than a mechanical contraption. It was an extension of his own hopes, fears, and dreams. Its growing mythos underscored the power of invention to shape not only the physical world, but also the landscapes of belief and identity. As the machine's story spread, it became a touchstone for discussions about the nature of communication, the boundaries of faith, and the possibilities unlocked by human creativity. Samuel's invention challenged the town to reconsider what was possible, to question the limits of understanding, and to embrace the complex interplay between skepticism and wonder. The boy who built a machine to talk to God had unwittingly become a catalyst for change, his creation a mirror reflecting the hopes and fears of a community and a world on the cusp of transformation. The legend that grew around his work was a testament to the enduring human desire to connect, to understand, and to believe. As the seasons shifted and years quietly unfolded, the boy who had once dreamed of building a machine to talk to God underwent a profound transformation, one not merely of age, but of spirit and understanding. The journey that began in the dim light of a small rural workshop had become a crucible for personal growth, reshaping Samuel's view of himself, his faith, and the intricate dance between science and spirituality. In the early days, Samuel had approached his invention with unbridled, youthful optimism, a belief that by harnessing the forces of electricity and machinery, he could forge a direct line to the divine. His vision was clear and singular, a tangible device capable of bridging the gap between earth and heaven. Yet, as the years passed, and the machine's capabilities remained enigmatic, Samuel's perspective deepened and matured. The challenges he faced, technical failures, social isolation, and the ambiguous nature of the signals his machine emitted, forced Samuel to grapple with the limits of human knowledge and the mysteries that eluded scientific explanation. It was a humbling process, one that tempered his earlier certainty with a nuanced appreciation for complexity and ambiguity. Samuel's evolving understanding was shaped in part by the community's responses. The mixture of fascination, fear, and skepticism he had encountered served as a mirror reflecting the multifaceted nature of belief itself. He came to see that faith was not a monolith, but a spectrum, an interplay of hope, doubt, tradition, and innovation. His machine was a symbol not of definitive answers, but of the ongoing quest for meaning. This realization influenced Samuel's approach to his work. He began to view the machine less as a literal telephone to God, and more as a metaphorical vessel, an instrument through which humans could explore the boundaries of communication, perception, and spirituality. The act of building and operating the device became a form of meditation, a dialogue not only with the divine, but with his own evolving consciousness. His relationship with faith transformed accordingly. Where once he sought concrete proof of divine presence, Samuel grew to embrace the mysteries that defied empirical measurement. Prayer, contemplation, and scientific inquiry merged in his practice, each informing and enriching the other. He recognized that the human yearning to connect with something greater was as much about the journey as the destination. This personal transformation was mirrored in Samuel's interactions with others. The boy, who had once been isolated by suspicion and misunderstanding, developed a quiet wisdom that invited dialogue rather than confrontation. He shared his experiences openly, acknowledging both the limitations and the possibilities of his invention. His story became a bridge, fostering conversations that transcended the boundaries of technology, religion, and culture. Within the family, Samuel's maturation was evident. His parents witnessed not only the growth of his machine, but the deepening of his character. Thomas, the clockmaker, respected his son's perseverance and insight, while Mary found solace in Samuel's enduring faith, even as it took new and unexpected forms. Their support remained a steady foundation amid the uncertainties of his quest. Samuel's workshops, though less cluttered with frantic experimentation, remained places of quiet reflection and careful study. He continued to refine the machine, not in pursuit of definitive communication, but as an ongoing exploration, a testament to human creativity and the mysteries that inspire it. The device became a symbol of harmony between reason and belief, a tangible expression of intangible aspirations. The boy, who had once sought to command the divine through machinery, now understood that true communion was not a matter of control, but of openness. The machine's enigmatic pulses were less messages to be decoded and more invitations to wonder, to listen, to question, and to embrace the unknown. Samuel found peace in this acceptance, a sense of unity with both the seen and unseen worlds. His journey also illuminated broader themes: the tension between tradition and progress, the evolving relationship between science and spirituality, and the enduring human desire for connection. Samuel's life became a narrative of reconciliation, weaving together threads that many saw as irreconcilable. His work inspired others to consider new possibilities, encouraging a dialogue that transcended fear and suspicion. In this transformation, Samuel embodied the timeless human quest for meaning. His machine, once a symbol of youthful ambition, had become a catalyst for wisdom, a reminder that invention is as much a spiritual endeavor as a scientific one. The synthesis of faith and reason, hope and inquiry, defined not only his journey, but the very essence of human experience. Through years of perseverance, reflection, and growth, Samuel emerged not just as an inventor, but as a seeker, one who recognized that the mysteries of existence are not obstacles to be overcome, but horizons to be approached with humility and wonder. His story was a testament to the power of imagination and belief, a narrative that celebrated the complexity and beauty of the human spirit. The machine to talk to God remained a presence in Samuel's life, less as a tool of communication and more as a symbol of the delicate balance between knowledge and faith. It stood as a monument to the boy's enduring curiosity and the transformative power of his journey, a journey that invited all who heard it to embrace the mysteries that lie at the heart of existence. Decades after the first tentative sparks flickered through the coils of Samuel's machine, its legacy endured far beyond the confines of his small rural town. Though the machine's ability to talk to God had never been conclusively proven, the spirit behind its creation resonated through generations, inspiring a timeless dialogue between faith and innovation. Samuel's pioneering efforts became a beacon, not just of technological curiosity, but of humanity's enduring quest to reconcile the tangible and the transcendent. The machine itself, now aged and weathered, was preserved carefully by Samuel's descendants, a relic of an extraordinary ambition born in the crucible of the late 19th century. Its intricate gears, coils, and wires bore silent witness to a boy's dream to bridge the infinite divide between man and the divine. Though many viewed it as a historical curiosity, scholars and spiritual seekers alike recognized it as a symbol of the profound human yearning to connect with something beyond ourselves. Samuel's story, long whispered in local lore, gradually found wider audiences. Letters, journals, and early sketches resurfaced in archives and private collections, revealing not only the technical intricacies of the machine, but also the heartfelt convictions that propelled its creation. Historians marveled at the intersection of science and spirituality encapsulated in Samuel's work, while theologians pondered the implications of his quest for divine communication through mechanical means. Modern advancements in technology and forensic analysis offered new lenses through which to examine Samuel's invention. Researchers employed contemporary scientific methods to study the machine's components, uncovering innovations that were remarkably ahead of their time. The apparatus's design hinted at an intuitive understanding of electromagnetic principles that predated widespread recognition in the scientific community. While definitive proof of supernatural communication remained elusive, the machine's sophistication challenged assumptions about the capabilities of a young inventor working with limited resources. Beyond the technical fascination, Samuel's machine became a touchstone for philosophical reflection. It embodied the timeless human impulse to seek meaning through creativity, to reach beyond the constraints of our physical existence, and to wrestle with the mysteries of faith and reason. The device stood as a testament to the courage required to dream boldly, to confront skepticism, and to pursue an uncertain path in search of deeper truths. The impact of Samuel's journey extended into contemporary discussions about the relationship between science and religion. His story illustrated that these domains need not be adversaries, but can coexist in a dynamic and enriching dialogue. The machine symbolized the possibility of harmony between empirical inquiry and spiritual belief, a harmony that continues to inspire innovators, thinkers, and seekers across disciplines. In the community where Samuel first conceived his vision, the machine became a cherished emblem of local heritage. Annual gatherings celebrated the boy inventor, whose curiosity and faith transcended his humble origins. The workshop where the machine was built was transformed into a museum, preserving the artifacts and stories that chronicled this extraordinary chapter of human endeavor. Visitors from around the world came to witness the machine, to reflect on its meaning, and to honor the spirit of exploration it embodied. Samuel's descendants carried forward his legacy with reverence and creativity. Some pursued scientific careers, inspired by his inventive mind. Others embraced spiritual vocations, drawn by his quest for divine connection. Together, they nurtured a family tradition that honored both the material and the mystical, fostering a lineage of inquiry and devotion that bridged generations. The machine's image and story found their way into literature, art, and scholarship, becoming a motif for the complex interplay of faith, technology, and human aspiration. Poets and painters captured the ethereal glow of its coils, while philosophers debated the nature of communication with the divine in an age of machines. The narrative of the boy who built a machine to talk to God transcended its historical moment, becoming a universal parable of hope and imagination. As historians revisited Samuel's life and work, they uncovered a narrative rich with lessons about perseverance, humility, and the transformative power of belief. The boy who dared to dream beyond the limits of his time had, in doing so, opened pathways for others to explore the frontiers of knowledge and spirit. His machine, though imperfect and enigmatic, stood as a monument to human creativity and the unyielding quest for meaning. In an era marked by rapid technological change and evolving spiritual landscapes, Samuel's story remains profoundly relevant. It challenges us to question our assumptions, to embrace the mysteries that defy easy explanation, and to recognize the enduring human desire to communicate with the ineffable. The Yumtam machine to talk to God is not merely a relic of the past, but a living symbol of the dialogue between science and faith, a dialogue that continues to shape our understanding of ourselves and the universe. The photograph taken at the unveiling of the machine's first demonstration, long thought to capture a moment of quiet triumph, was recently re-examined using modern forensic techniques. Subtle details revealed in the image, a faint glimmer in Samuel's eyes, the positioning of certain figures, the interplay of light and shadow, offered new insights into the boy's determination and the community's complex reactions. The photograph became a testament to how evidence can lie dormant for generations, awaiting the advancement of technology to unveil deeper truths. Samuel Bennett, the photographer who captured that historic moment, had unintentionally preserved not only the image of an invention, but the essence of a transformative event. His work reminds us that history is often layered and multifaceted, with stories hidden within images waiting to be uncovered. The machine and its maker remain emblematic of the human spirit's capacity to dream, to question, and to reach beyond the known. In the end, the boy who built a machine to talk to God left a legacy far greater than circuitry or mechanics. He left a legacy of hope, that through imagination, faith, and perseverance, humanity can strive to touch the divine, to bridge divides, and to illuminate the mysteries that lie at the heart of existence. His story endures as a beacon, inviting each new generation to embark on their own journey of discovery, belief, and wonder.